First, I will be talking about the market regulations and some of the trade reforms and some major reforms I will be talking. And later on, maybe in continuation to this session, or with a small break or like that, we can have the second session also. So I hope that with almost your program is going to end, you might have been well equipped with some kind of knowledge or some kind of confidence might have come to you for appearing for the exams with all these lectures and all. So today what I'm going to do is that just to sensitize you for appearing for all these exam and how to get some kind of basic information regarding market regulations and about WTO and SPS measures and all. And ultimately, it's your hard work and just your reading and everything will affect your exam performance and all. So this is just to sensitize you in regarding these topics and all. So coming to the first session, that's about the regulated markets. So when we talk about the regulated markets, it's just like it is not an alternative marketing system, as it is that it's like it was envisaged to regulate the marketing practices by following standard marketing practices and standard charges for marketing operations, and it aimed to eliminate some of the unhealthy practices that were happening this in the market activities and all. And ultimately, the major aim of the regulated markets are for the improvement of the marketing efficiency with we are following those standard marketing practices and getting benefit to the farmers who are involved in this marketing activities. So it is not like a mandatory for the farmers or growers to have a sale. They have to sell in that particular regulated markets only. It's voluntary for them that farmers, they can come and they can sell their produce to the middlemen or their other buyers uh, through open competition or bidding process in the particular regulated market, but it's not a mandatory thing for the farmers, and it's a kind of a state subject because agriculture is a state subject. And when the central government enact any regulations and all, it's up to the state. They can have the amendment, and it's up to the purview of the states to have the regulations and amendments in this marketing activities, especially in the case of regulated markets. So regulated market, it's not an alternative marketing system. It's just to improve the existing marketing system. This kind of, with those objectives, regulated markets were established. So when we talk about the history of market regulations, we know that in 1886, the first regulated market, that is currently a cotton market, was established. That was during the British rule, that period, just to supplement the cotton or textile industry in UK. This kind of regulated market, especially in the case of cotton, were established. And the first law in that line, in the regulated markets, was established in 1897. That is Berar Cotton and Grain Market Act. And this Market Act became a model act for the states, or that time it was like a different provinces were there. So it became a model act for the different states to enact their own market regulations and all. And subsequently, some other committee like Indian Cotton Committee in 1917, they have recommended regulations or creation of the regulator markets in line of this Berar Cotton and Grain Market Act. And in 1927, Bombay provinces, government of Bombay, they have enacted Cotton Market Act because this is in the sense that the first law that involved a fair marketing practices, because earlier marketing regulations or act were basically skewed towards this according to the traders, like any British ruler, British citizen, they can have the they can acquire the particular area and they can tell or they can acquire that area and create a market yard. So those kind of many practices, fair practices that should be there in those kind of uh, uh, provisions were made in the Bombay Cotton Market Act. And in 1928, the Royal Commission on Agriculture and the Office of the Agriculture Marketing Advisor in 1935, they all came up with some kind of rules and regulations for setting up of these regulated markets. And finally, in 1938, DMI have introduced the Agriculture Produce Marketing and Commission Act. And following this act, many other state governments in that those times, like Hyderabad Agricultural Market Act in 1930, then Central Provinces Cotton Market Act in 1932. So those kind of many provinces, they have created or they have enacted the market regulations in following these act. Then, and some of the states like Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and all, they have enacted or inherited some other states act also. So many state governments, they were involved in separate. They have amended some of the act. They have their own regulation that time also. And the thing is that most of these market regulations are basically skewed towards the cotton growing states and all. And most of the regulated markets and those rules and regulations were basically just to ensure that any kind of a fair marketing practices are going on. And it was basically skewed towards the cotton growing belt and all. And later on in 1950s, after we got the independence and we were planning with our 5-year plans and all, during 1960s and 70s, we had more, our interests were more towards the procurement of wheat, paddy and all. Later on, our coverage of products have moved from cotton, then wheat, paddy and other products. So after independence and during 1960s and 70s, many states, they have enacted Agriculture Produce Market Regulations Act. In that, all the primary wholesale assembling markets were brought under this act, and there were clear demarcation of the market yards and sub yards were there in each market area. And the IMC, that is Agriculture Produce Market Committee, were there. They were set up to frame the rules and enforce them and to run those APMC markets. And during 1950, around 286 regulated markets, 946 regulated wholesale markets are there. So that much the number of regulated markets were increased from from 1950 to till this time. And so the states were having different reforms and regulations for the this APMC markets and all. Here, major drawbacks of regulated markets during that time is that even though the regulated markets were started with a good intention that there should be a fair competitive kind of situation should be there in the marketing activities. Farmers should get their fair prices and all the malpractices should be reduced. There were a lot of drawbacks were there. So some of the drawbacks are there, like exporters they or processor they cannot buy directly from farmers, and that almost all these markets were established by the state government. So that is they were preventing private players from setting up a market. That is for investing in the marketing infrastructure and all. So in that way, they were preventing new investment or fair competition in the marketing activities. And another thing is that formation of the cartel network, resulting in they are forming the cartels and influencing the market prices, and middlemen they were acting like a barrier between farmer and consumer, and monopoly of the licensed traders were there, which were creating major entry barriers in the market. Then again, all these markets were fragmented, and which were preventing free flow of the commodities from one market to the another. And again, another drawback is that multiple handling of the produce and multiple mandi charges were there, and which were high in different mandis, and where mandi charges were there, but were not benefiting the farmer. So in these drawbacks, or some committees were formed by the government to study about the regulated markets. One committee was appointed like expert committee in 2001, and interministerial task force on agriculture marketing reforms. These two committees have studied about the marketing regulations or regulated markets, and they have found that, or they have given recommendation that there should be involvement of the private players in the regulated markets for ensuring a fair competition in the market and all. And subsequently, these reports were again studied by Standing Committee of State Ministers under the chairmanship of Hukumdev Narayan Yadav. And later on, again, they have reiterated the same this recommendation given by the other two committees. And in 2003, by the chairmanship, under the chairmanship of KM Saini, and they're in consultation with the states, they have prepared the Model Act of 2003. So in this Model Act, state is divided into several market areas, and which is administered by the APMC, Agriculture Produce Market Committee. And apart from this committee, any person like legal person, growers and local authorities, they are permitted to apply for the establishment of the new market. And again, there is no compulsion for the growers to sell their produce through the existing APMC market, and there was separate provision for the special markets. Then and again, there is a provision for contract farming, allowing direct sale to the sponsor from farmers' field. Then single point levy of market fee. Then again, prohibiting commissions in any transactions of the farmers. Then if any disputes are there, means there were some kind of provisions are made for resolving those, and some kind of provisions were also there for creating marketing infrastructure with the revenue earned by the APMCs. And again, in the first I told that when the central government enact the role, it's up to the state government to follow and make some kind of reforms in there. Act, because it's agriculture is a state subject. So when this rule or when this act came in 2003 and circulated among the states, the acceptance from different states or the reforms made from by different states are different. If you see in this table, you can find that some of the most of the states, like for example, in the first 18 states were having they have established private market yard, and then 19 states were having they have made some kind of reforms in direct purchase of agriculture produce. 14 states were having promoting then e-trading, like that, and around 20 states there they made a provision for contract farming and all. So it's like how much the market regulations or regulated market and their reforms were hugely means it is varied between the state. It's not like a uniform all over the India and all. So because of its state subject kind of that nature. And another reform that that we have to talk recently to ensure like a kind of a unified national market. Those kind of concept in that way it came in 2016, that is ENAM, Electronic National Agriculture Market. It's a electronic trading portal. It's like it is a network of existing APMC and other market yard to create a unified national market for agriculture commodities. So here, Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium is a lead agency which is looking after all this, implementing the ENAM activities. Up to now, around 1,000 APMC markets are linked to the ENAM network from 18 states and 3 union territories. So it's ENAM is not like a parallel market, but it's a network of physical mandis that we can be accessed online. And here, basic motive is that to create a leverage the physical infrastructure of the mandis through an online portal, and it will enable the buyers who are sitting outside the mandi or state, they can participate in the trading at the local level. So if any states want to join ENAM, they need to make 3 reforms. Like they have to get the unified license across the state. Only single point market fee should be there, and there should be a provision for the e-trading also. So up to now, if you see the improvement or the status of ENAM, the number of stakeholders, how many are there? Around 21 states are there participating in ENAM or linked to the ENAM or online. Their APMCs have been linked, and around 2 lakh traders are there, around 1 lakh commission agents are there. 2,000 FPOs are also linked in there, and farmer coverage is around 1.7 crore we can find. So in line with the ENAM, like to create a unified marketing, like one nation, one market, in that line in 2017, this Agriculture Produce and Livestock Marketing on Promotion and Facilitation Act was formed. So here the basic motive is that we need to reduce, or we need to abolish the fragmentation of the market within the state, and we need to have a greater coverage of produce. All the agricultural as well as livestock produce should be there in the in the coverage of this regulation or regulated markets. So here, basic thing is that all the, like we need to have a conducive environment for the private trading and there should be a direct interface between farmers and processors, and even warehouses, cold storage. They were also declared as a market subyard for the better market access, and again provision for the e-trading also given for increasing the transparency in the marketing operations. Again, this kind of single point levy of market fees, then all the rationalization of the market fee, all were the some of other provisions in the the latest act in 2017. So in line with the ENAM, this to create a unified marketing system, this APLM act was also formed in 2017. And recently we know that in 2020 we had three farm laws, and it was re-appealed later. But to have an information purpose, and we can have what are the three provisions in each this acts and all. In the first act, like the Farming, Produce, Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act, there is a three provisions are there. Like there is no barriers, barriers for farmers to sell. They can sell anywhere. They don't have any intra and interstate trade of. Farmers are not being they have been allowed to sell their produce anywhere. And again, there is a provision for the online trading, and the state government should not levy any market fees and all outside the physical market area. And in second act, farmers empowerment and protection agreement of price assurance and farm this service act. Here there is So we were talking about these three farm laws, and which have been repealed. And with these are the major trade marketing reforms, we can say, in general. And coming to the trade reforms, next slide. You may go to 19th slide. Yes. Okay. So here, can you go back? One more slide is there. Yeah, okay. So here, when we talk about agriculture trade reforms, they were mostly, in general, when we talk about trade reforms, mostly it were confined to the non-agriculture sectors. Agriculture was, however, this protected during all these reforms and all. Praveen, just one slide back you have to go. Okay. Not this. Next. Just now you have entered, right? You are going back. I was telling trade reforms, and that title is trade reforms. Okay, okay. So here, when in our agriculture sector in India at that time during first 5-year plans and all, we were mostly we did not have much emphasis on the agriculture trade. Our tariffs import tariff during that time was around 100 to 300 percentage during that time. After 1950s to 1970s, we had have a moderate outward-looking economic policy that time. Like before that, we were having tight import measures are there, import control, tariff, higher tariffs are there. And later on in 1970s, because that time during first 5-year plan and all, we were having much different focus, like increasing agriculture productions and all. So we did not have that much emphasis on the agriculture trade. And we were having started to have a moderate outward-looking economic policy during 1915 to 1917. And in the late 1970s or early 80s, we have given some kind of more importance to the agriculture trade. Some of the committees like Task Force on Agricultural Export, then P. Alexander Committee, then Abid Hossain Committee, they have studied the existing agricultural export policies during that time. And they have recommended that we should not have the ad hoc export kind of policy that, okay, once we had a surplus production, then we can export. That kind of policy should not be there all the time. We should encourage the farmers to have a linkage to the external markets. We need to have some kind of competitive kind of regime. That kind of measures should be there. We should more focus towards the we need to have explore the opportunities in the international market. So slides are not shared, I think, Praveen.
I think, ma'am, Praveen has left the meeting.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I think he has left the meeting.
Let me. My screen also. Okay, let me see. I think he came back.
Yes, yes, he just joined.
So, just for, okay, here only. And here in mid 80s and early 90s, some liberalization policy we started. We know 91 reforms, where we had a lot of economic reforms we have started. That time also, still agriculture sector was protected. That much reforms were not started in the agriculture sector. But in 1994, when India was there in as a signatory for the WTO and Uruguay round, we had agreement on agriculture. That time we started some kind of reforms in the agriculture sector. So here, some other reforms like broadening and simplification of the export incentives, then elimination of the quantitative restriction, substantial reduction in tariff, decanalization of the export and import. So earlier some agencies like NAFED, FCA, they could only operate in the export and import kind of activities. So though in that way they were keeping the private players away from in export also. So these measures like decanalization brought other private players in the trade, agriculture trade. And some of the export-import policies like in 1992-97 and in 2002 and 7, some kind of reforms also, or some kind of regulations also made in the export of products. Some in exim policy 1992-97, we could see that some products like coconut, cottonseed, vegetable oils, and some they were they kept under negative list, but they were permitted through licensing and all. And some products like milk, then ghee, they were onion, they were exported through agencies, canalizing agencies like NAFED, then NDDB, etc. And some products like basmati rice, non-basmati rice, they were permitted without a license. And in the same way, there were negative list of import like fertilizers, edible oils, then some products like livestock, they were restricted. And some products like pulses, cashew, they were also kept in the negative list. And in Exim policy 2002-7, in that major decisions or major reforms we could find in terms of agri export zones. They were created, provisions were made for the separate zones for the agricultural products. So currently, we can say that around 60 agricultural export zones are there in 16 states. And again, some rules like simplification of trade procedures, then some subsidies are given for the transport of fruits and vegetables and all in that policies. Next, Praveen. And these are the list of agri-export zone if you in different states can find in Maharashtra, West Bengal, Andhra, United Andhra. We could find more number of agri-export zone where the particular product agriculture produce they are having like mostly you can find in case of fruits, mango, grapes and all. According to the their states and the production and all, there we could we can find around 60 agri export zones are there. Next. And recent one, the one is that in line with the doubling of farm income, there is a policy for like formulation in terms of agricultural export policy by Department of Commerce for doubling the agricultural export, focusing then this export oriented production, export promotion, and then it is like having a farmer centric approach. So now our export is around 30 to 37 billion US dollar. Now by 2022 it has to increase by 60 billion US dollar. So in 2018 that was the aim to double the export from the existing one and to reach around 100 billion in the another a few years with a stable policy. This is one of the important steps that we have taken recently. That is agricultural export policy of 2018. And there were many policies like they have divided into two categories, strategic as well as operational. In strategic like those policy measures or infrastructure and logistics support for increasing the export. Then operational like focusing on the cluster production, then value addition, making India brand in the international market, So those kind of strategies, different policy impetus were given in these two categories. So this is like creating a brand India in the international market by, and again linking the farmers to the international market too, and to get the benefit to the farmers in the overseas market. Next. So if you see the agriculture trade in India in terms of export and import, for example, in 2005, we were only 1.38% of agricultural export in the as a world. In the world as a whole, we were having only 1.38 percentage share. It increased to around 2.37 percentage in the latest 2019 triennial year. And subsequently, if you see in the case of import also, from 0.75 to 1.59 percentage increase is there. Even though it's a if you see our presence in the international markets, only very less, because nearly 2% only we are having, that our export share is only, or export or import also is near about 2%. But over the years also we had improved a lot in terms of agricultural export and all. And if you see the share of agriculture in total export and import, if it is around 10 to 11% in terms of export, and import it is around 4 to 5%. Next. So these are some of the major commodities that we are exporting and importing. First one is rice, that include basmati as well as non-basmati rice, and followed by buffalo meat. Then other products like guar gum and other processed foods, fresh grapes and all. And if in the case of this import, we can find mostly this pulses there, oil seeds are there, which is having larger share. Next. So this is in general about the market regulations and trade reforms and all. So shall I start with the WTO, and or if you need any break? Already we had a break because of this network issue and all. Shall I start with WTO?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here, WTO is an international organization which is ensuring trade flow to have a smooth trade flow, and ensuring free as well as competitive environment for the international trade. It laid out the global rules of trade. So you already know these facts, like location is in Geneva and established in 1995 January 1st. And it is the end result of Uruguay round of negotiation from 1986 to 94 of GATT. When the 1994, the GATT, the treaty was ended, and again the birth of WTO happened. Currently, 164 members are there, representing 98% of the world trade around. And Uvela is the head of Director General of WTO. Next. So when we talk about the evaluation of WTO, you need to find some details about the GATT, also General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which was formulated in the originated, we can say, in 1944 Bretton Woods Conference, where IMF and IBRD also formed. It came into existence in 1948 till 1994 with the 117 members. So during GATT is like a provisional treaty for ensuring the fair or more increasing the world trade by laying out different rules and all. That time, GATT was started with the 23 member countries, and when it ended, around 117 members were there. It had 2/3 of members belonging to developing nations, covering 85% of the world trade. And it was just like a provisional agreement, and for the and it lasted for around 46 years. The major function is like a function of GATT was to have a multilateral trade negotiation through different trade rounds. In this table, you can find starting from 1947 to 1994, different trade rounds were there, and different subjects were covered in each round. So first 5 rounds, we could see only tariffs were covered, how to reduce this tariff between the export and import between the countries, and in the later on other subjects like anti-dumping, then non-tariff measures, then intellectual property dispute settlement, agriculture, all came into their negotiations and all. Then Uruguay round, it was started in 1986 in Geneva and ended in Marrakesh, Morocco. That is why we know we say it is a Marrakesh Treaty under Uruguay round in 1994. There it ended, and WTO was established, formed during this Marrakesh Treaty. There, in that same Uruguay round, it took around 8 years to complete, and different subjects were discussed. In agriculture was one of those subjects that discussed rigorously in that treaty. And India is a founder member of WTO. And coming to the functions of WTO, next. Major functions are just administering WTO trade agreements, covering goods, services, and intellectual property. Then it is a forum for trade negotiations, like different trade policies. Every members, they have to notify to the WTO about their trade policies, and all these trade policies of different countries, they should be reviewed in periodically. Another function is handling trade disputes. Any trade disputes between two countries are there, they need to resolve. There is a dispute settlement mechanism is there in WTO. And again, all these, apart from the trade negotiations, I already told, national trade policies also will be monitored, and any kind of technical assistance and training for developing countries also will be are given by the WTO, and other outreach programs are also conducted in cooperation with the different organizations. Next. If you're talking about WTO Organization Chart, there is 4 levels we can say. First level is the ministerial conference. It is a top level decision making body which meet every 2 years. So I think, and the latest one was scheduled in 2020, but because of COVID, this has been shifted to 2022, I think. And it is a supreme decision making body. They meet every 2 years, and In that major trade agreements, their negotiations, everything will be discussed in this ministerial conferences. Second level is general council. Whatever day-to-day decisions making are done by this body. They also meet regularly, and again, whatever the decisions that are taken by the ministerial conferences have been, they will be implemented by this general council, and they are in this have in the second level, the general council, we have dispute settlement body and trade policy review body also. So in these two bodies, they will be having separate within this general council. These two bodies will function with their respective objectives. And third level is a different kinds of sections like goods council, services council, intellectual property council. They all will report to the general council. That is in the second level. And again, in the fourth level, numerous specialized committees are there, working in different areas of the trade agreements. Next. So here you need to understand that ministerial conference, they meet every 2 years. That is the top level decision making body. Coming to the principles of trading system, the WTO had laid out 5 principles. First one is trade without discrimination. So in that, most favored nation, MFN, then national treatment. This MFN in the sense that we need to treat the other people equally under the WTO agreement. So we who are the member of WTO, they should not discriminate between their member trading partners. And the national treatment is that we need to treat the foreign goods as like our local goods. So for treating foreigner and local equally in the country. So here that imported goods and locally produced goods should be treated equally. So once the foreign goods are entered into our market, we should not have any discriminations. So before before importing, we are keeping customs duty and all. No, it is not a violation of this national treatment. Once the goods enter into our market, we should not have any discrimination and all. And that is the first principle, that trade without discrimination, MFN, and the national treatment. Then second one is freer trade gradually through negotiations. So here again, as like GATT, this agreement, WTO also through and this envisages that you need to, countries should reduce their tariffs and quota, everything. All the trade barriers should be reduced through negotiations, and ultimately we should have kind of a free trade. Free trade in the literal sense that is not a zero tariff rate in the same, but it is like a minimal duty we should keep. And third one is predictability through binding and transparency. So here, once the agreements are made in the WTO, different countries, all the member countries, they should be having, they are having the commitment in terms of binding tariff structures and all. So those will ensure that these countries are following the WTO rules with a transparent manner and all. And the fourth one is promoting fair competition, like discouraging unfair practices like export subsidies and dumping of the product, because WTO ensures that multilateral trade should be promoted. So if any countries they are imposing any export subsidy, or we are dumping the product into the foreign market at a lower price, that is like a discrimination, or it is affecting the importing countries' marketing system, or it is affecting their farmers. So in that way, these all are unfair practices that are happening in the international trade. So WTO ensure that these kind of unfair practices should not be there. And the fifth one is encouraging development and economic reforms. Like here, most of the signatories are less developed or developing countries. So here in the tariff reduction commitment, most of the beneficial or some kind of flexibility were given to the developing countries to adjust to the tariff reduction norms and all, as because of their economic condition and all, they have given more flexibility. So in that way, WTO also ensuring development and economic reforms. I think Praveen again off the line.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah,
Screen is not visible.
no, it's not visible now.
Yeah. Okay. Now, ma'am.
I cannot see.
Okay, I will try again.
It is not visible, Praveen sir.
Okay, sir.
Yes, now it is visible.
Yeah.
Principles of trading system. There we can. I think it's 30 number slide.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, here. So these are the 5 principles where the WTO, through that WTO administer the world trade. And coming to the WTO agreements, around 60 different agreements are there with the 6 main parts. First agreement is an umbrella agreement that led to the establishment of the WTO. Second one is general agreement on tariffs and trade for goods. It includes agriculture, product standards, subsidies, and dumping. In this agreement, the latest one we know that trade facilitation agreement were done. In 2017, it came to promote those, increase the trade practices by following standards, then reduction in number of documents required. So many kind of trade facilitation arrangements have come through that agreement. Third one is general agreement on trading services. It include those activities. Banks, insurance, then firms, telecommunications, all that transport, all those rules related to this will come under trading services. The fourth one is TRIPS. the trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. It includes protecting the honor or protecting the innovations of the particular content creator in terms of copyright, patents, trademarks, geographical indication, industrial design, trade secrets, and all. And fifth one is dispute settlement agreement, where we could find that if two countries they were having any dispute is there, there is a dispute settlement body is there, they should come first, they should negotiate between themselves. But if beyond that it's not possible, means WTO itself will come with a step by step process for settlement of the disputes. And the sixth one is trade policy review mechanism, that all the members they should undergo periodic scrutiny. So some of the major exporting countries like China, USA, they are having periodical trade policy reviews will be there by WTO, and periodic whatever our that country-wise trade dispute or trade policies are there, we are creating, all this will be reviewed by the WTO to ensure that they should not discriminate the other partners in the international trade. Next. So in this agreement on agriculture again came into force in 1995. We know that three components are there: market access, domestic support, and export subsidies. Under market access, all the reduction commitment are all they have divided in this. Those trade policies or various trade restrictions confronting imports are given under this market access. So in that we can find tarification, tariff reduction, then minimum access, special safeguard, all are there. And in domestic support, all the subsidies and other farmers' income supporting programs are included in this. And you already know about all these green box, blue box, and then amber box policies, de minimis and commitments. And export subsidies that include those subsidies that are making export artificially competitive. And this kind of component, these three components, and what are the major provisions or major concept in this can find in there. We can discuss one by one. Next slide. Coming to market access, we can see first one is tarification. So in tarification, during that time, both of these quota and other non-tariff restrictions like quota, like quantity restrictions, all those kind of restrictions were converted into tariff. They should not have any kind of artificial barrier should not be there for entering the entering product into our market. So they were converted those non-tariff restrictions to tariff tarification, we can say. Those once the non-tariff tariff restrictions are converted into tariff, they should reduce gradually. That is in the second, higher tariff will be reduced gradually through negotiations. And third one is this developing countries and developed countries, they were having some kind of binding for the binding in front of the WTO. We should bound our duty every every export or import and all. Some countries they were having some kind of ceiling tariff rate, so they were given. And in terms of market access, they were having a special safeguard. in the sense that some products where the non-tariff restrictions have been converted into tariff. When if you want to impose special safeguard mechanism, there should be some kind of situation or some point should be there, like emergency actions should be there. For example, if you are excessively importing one particular product and it is affecting our domestic prices in a shorter time and affecting farmers, means in that time we can have the this special safeguard option. So recently in edible oil, we are almost importing around 14 million tons of edible oil. So last year we had imposed one special safeguard mechanism. In that we have raised the duty of crude palm oil around 5%. So like why we did that, it was we were importing and it was affecting the farmer, it was affecting the domestic prices and all. So in that way we can have this kind of special safeguard, but as such we should not reduce or we should not hindrance the market access to other country. So these are the 4 provisions in the market access. Next. In under domestic support, the reduction commitments they have given in 3 boxes, green box, blue box, and amber box. So coming to green box, those subsidies that don't disturb trade balance or any causing any damage to trade balance, they have included in the green box. Here, there is no reduction commitment. Those, for example, agricultural R&D training program, then payment made directly to the farmers that directly not affect the production, and direct income support to the farmers, because they are we are supporting farmers. It do not have direct impact on the production and all. And if you are giving assistance to help farmers and any other direct payment, all, and the public stock holding in the for food security, those things will come under green box. There is no limit by WTO, or there is no reduction commitment under this in this box, green box we can say. So all the subsidies that do not disrupt or to affect the agriculture production, it won't be it do not have this like decoupled payments, or do not have a direct link to the protection and all. So those things, those activities or support to the farmers, it won't be affected, or it won't be related to the reduction commitment. Again, in the blue box, we can say that only production limiting subsidies, they are only allowed in this blue box. Here, for example, payment to reduce the acreage under particular crop, production under crop, or reduction of this livestock. This reduction for reducing, if you are giving any kind of payment or arresting production, you are giving any payment, that will come under this blue box. So that means here, as compared to green box, there is no kind of a support. It is not directly related to the production. But in blue box, it is directly related to production, but they are not directly increasing the production. So, for example, payment that are made on 85% or less production in a defined base periods are being included in the blue box coverage. So here they may directly link to production, but those support which we have given for this production limiting subsidies means they won't be having any limit. Again, there is no share. Praveen. And in amber box policies, they are the subsidies which are trade distorting, and those kind of subsidies are included in this box. There have to be reduced. Their tariff has to be reduced. Like measure like supporting this MSP and all, they have included in the amber box policies. So that is subsidies directly related to the production quantities. So here WTO limit is that it is known as a de minimis limit. De minimis limit in the sense that if the under this there is no requirement to reduce such a trade distorting domestic support in any year, if the aggregate value of support to that particular product does not exceed 5% in the case of developed countries, and 10% in the case of least developed countries. So here again, let me. Again, in the here, for example, if you are giving support to the wheat MSP, for if you see in the case of wheat supporting, if the support to the wheat is less than 5% of that, for example, for developing countries it is 10%, and for developed countries 5%. This de minimis limit is calculated through aggregate measure of support. For example, let me share.
Recording in progress.
Hello. Hello, Praveen. Hello, Praveen. You may unshare your screen. Now I can share my screen also. Then network problem is not there.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, let me.
I stop my sharing.
Okay. But you have to enable me for sharing my screen. Yeah, now it came. Okay. So here, if you are giving support to wheat, means their percentage, their aggregate measure of support, which is calculated through AMS, through applied administrative price minus world reference price into quantity supported. So our MSP and the world reference price and how much quantity have been supported. This value should not exceed 10% in the case of developing countries. It will be acceptable to us. And for developed, it will be 5%. And the least developed countries are exempted for the production in the specific year. So some issues were there in 2018-19 when our de minimis limit were exceeding at that time. compared to the base year and all. So if this kind of limit exceed means we need to reduce those kind of commitment. So these are AMS and de minimis limit are there in this kind of a regulations. In amber box, all the subsidies which are directly linked to the production quantities have been limited. They should be limited. And AMS include product-specific subsidies, for example, price support to V. Non-product subsidy like subsidy for fertilizer, seed, power, and irrigation. These all are included in the aggregate measure of support. And in this three conditions, market taxes, domestic support, and export subsidies. In export subsidy, they should not be we should not support the domestic producers against the international competition. So we excessively we cannot support like through export subsidy, then by giving export credits, special and differential treatment, special product, sensitive products, all this kind of that kind of products are prohibited under this agreement on agriculture. So, but there are some exemptions are there. Then that we should be made sure. So here, if these kind of subsidies have been included in this agreement on agriculture, we should cut the amount of expenditure, amount of money that we spend on export subsidies. And you might have studied this one in your trade classes. So how much reduction commitment have been made by developing and developed countries when the negotiations were happened in each cases. In the market access, how the reduction commitment were done, which were higher in the case of developed countries, and for the 6 years. For developing countries, around 10 years to reduce around 25%. Then again, domestic support also, a total AMS aggregate measure of support for developed countries, it's around 20%, and developing countries 13%, like that. So these were the commitments made by this developed and developing countries. So that's about the tariff, WTO, and this agreement on agriculture and their provisions. So now we need to know about tariff and non-tariff barriers. Tariff, you already know, that's a taxi or duty levied on traded commodity once it crosses the national boundary. We are having three types of tariff: ad valorem, specific, and compound tariff. Ad valorem means it is expressed as a fixed percentage or the value of the traded commodity. Specific means it is expressed as a per unit of the traded commodity. So if you are telling 20% of tariff on imported edible oil, means it's an ad valorem tariff. Then if you are telling 10 rupees per liter of imported edible oil, that means specific tariff. If we combine both of them, like 1 rupees per liter of some edible oil for 10 kilo edible oil, after the 10 kilo edible oil, if you are keeping 25% tariff on the next batch, means if you combine both this kind of tariff, it will come like compound tariff. That is a combination of ad valorem and a specific tariff. And sometimes we have the tariff quota also. Like we will have the low tariff for any some batch of product, and within a some quantity, and later once this quantity exceeded, means there will be higher tariff rate above their initial level. So that kind of tariff also there. And just for your understanding, type of tariff are three types of tariffs are there mainly: MFN tariff, bound tariff, and preferential tariff. MFN tariff we already know in the WTO principle, most favored nations treatment is there. So here countries they promise to import from the other members of the WTO. Those tariffs are called most favored nations. So most of the member countries, if you are giving tariff preference to the other members that are under MFN tariff. If, for example, we are having different tariff, different preferential tariff arrangements are there, like ASEAN agreement, then RCEP, comprehensive. They all are included as a preferential trade agreement. So in those agreements, they will be further reducing tariffs and all in between the parties. So other than that, those MFN tariffs means countries promise to impose on import from the other members of the WTO. Bound tariff means they are specific commitment made by the individual WTO member through the negotiations. So a bound tariff is the maximum MFN tariff for a given commodity line. So if any member country raises bound tariff, mean we can take them into a dispute settlement body of WTO. Preferential tariff I already told when we are having preferential trade agreement. And they in that agreement we are promising to reduce our tariff lower than the MFN rate. This preferential tariff will be reciprocal. So two countries are involved in the agreement means both the countries should reduce their tariff. So graphically we can say that bound tariff became a ceiling. It is a higher tariff. MFN will be lesser in between this preferential as well as bound. And preferential in the sense it will be lesser than that of MFN tariff. So once, if you see tariff structure in India, India is having import of country commodities, especially in the agriculture commodities. Our bound duty is around 113%, but our MFN duty is around 34%. So that means we can go up to 113. Beyond that, we cannot impose the duties. And some of the products like animal products here having higher bound duties around 104, but our MFN duties are only 30%. We can find many of the commodities having higher bound duties, but as compared to their MFN duties. But if you see some of the non-agricultural products in the here, we can find that their bound duties as well as MFN duties are very less. So that's why we say that agriculture products are still protected in India in terms of these duties and all. And if you see how tariff, what kind of tariff is faced by India in their major markets. Major market is that, for example, top 5 exporting market for agriculture products for India. European Union, USA, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and China. These are the top 5 exporting market for India, where India is facing only lesser, around 5 to 13%. Maximum we can find in Iran around 18%. We are facing only that much kind of tariff from these countries. Again, if you see non-agriculture product also, we are having lesser, very less, within 5 we can find. For example, in China, most of the MFN, we don't have tariff also, around 0%. And so that is the basic difference between agriculture and non-agriculture product, that what we are facing and what we are imposing to the other countries. So coming to non-tariff barriers, any barriers other than tariff barriers, we can make them into a category of non-tariff barriers, which is having effect on international trade in goods, quantities, or any influence on prices will be termed as non-tariff barriers. It can be in the form of government laws, regulations, policies, and all. And these are the some of the non-tariff barriers listed here. And here I am going to discuss about only sanitary, phytosanitary, and technical barriers to trade. Sanitary and phytosanitary barriers and technical barriers to trade. Basically, SPS measures aims to protect the health of human, plants, and animals, while technical barriers to trade is just to ensure the product quality and safety. Basically, these SPS and TBT measures are based on international standards like Codex Alimentarius, then ISO and all. If you find, if you see basic difference between these two SPS measures, they are basically trying to protect human or animal life from the foodborne risk, which are arising from use of additives, contaminants, toxins, and all. And again, human health, protecting human health from animal or plant carried diseases, or protecting animal and plants from pests and diseases. And while we are having plant quarantine department is there, no? So we will be seeing if any import products, plants, or imported means whether any potential pests are there or any diseases is there or not in that particular plant or any products. We will assess that in that way. We will block their entry if any kind of suspected things are there. Whereas in TBT measures, whatever the practices that are involved in the production of particular product, like protection of environment, then product quality, like their shape, size, design, and performance, all these things will come under these TBT measures. Is in SPS regulations, we can find that sometimes, most of the time, in our exported product like grapes and mangoes, we will be getting rejections from European Union because that flies will be present or it is not properly fumigated. With those kind of reasons, they will tell, or those will come under this kind of SPS categories. Like, for example, import ban on dairy products from countries with poor sanitary conditions, and we are not following any maximum residue limit in the case of rice and other products. While if you are finding any pesticide residue limits, if you are exceeding means, that kind of rejections you may get. Or in production of food, so like in the case of coloring, preservation, sweetness, some tolerance limits are there, laid out by the international organization or particular country like USA and EU also. They are having stricter standards are there. If you are not if you are exceeding those limit, mean we will our product will be this rejected. Then other than that, labeling and marking, packaging requirement, then if your storage conditions are not specified, not following hygienic requirement, then post-harvestment treatment is not there. All those kind of things we are not following means we will be that products will be rejected from the importing countries. And TBT regulations mean some of the rules like technical and administrative rules will be there for different countries, importing countries. If you are not following that, like for example, registration should be there, permit, license should be there, authorized person should be given. For example, for export of rice and all for in India, uh, Export Inspection Council should provide the certification for exporting the rice to European Union. Then only they will be accepting. So like that. For any animal product, veterinary surgeon certificate should be there, health certificate should be there. That kind of requirement should we have to follow. Then again, proper quality standards should be mentioned, like color, size, then printing on packages. For example, in USA, if you are exporting any product, we should clearly mention what is the content, in what are the major contents in that particular product. It should mention in the label itself. And again, some other requirement like environment product friendly equipment should be used in the production process. Those kind of regulations will be coming in the technical TBT regulations. And last one, I would like to share some other trade indicators and trade competitiveness measures. First one is one nominal protection coefficient, that is this ratio of domestic price to the international price. It is giving how much protection that are given to a particular commodity at the domestic level. For example, if NPC is greater than 1, we can say that, say, positive protection, and less than 1 means negative protection, means domestic producers are protected as compared to the international or counterpart, we can say. If you see in the case of rice and wheat, we can say that wheat is having higher NPC, right? We are protecting, it is more protected, like that we can say in these two commodities. And effective protection coefficient, we will take into consideration of the value additions. We will take the domestic resources. We will take into the use of inputs also in terms of protection of particular commodity and their prices. So value added at a domestic prices by the international price. If it is greater than 1 means it gives positive protection. And again, once we adjust with the subsidies and taxes for the traded inputs, we can get the effective subsidy coefficient also. And last one is the trade competitiveness measures. In that, we used to take about the revealed comparative advantage index. This is one of the widely used competitiveness measure. It is a ratio of the country's export of a particular commodity to the total merchandise export. If you want to find out the rice competitiveness, means rice export to the total agricultural export of India divided by world rice export to the world total agricultural export. In that way, in there, then we have to take the ratio of these two values, and in that way we can find the competitiveness. So here, if it is greater than 1 means that we are having competitiveness in the international market for that particular commodity. How much that product is competitive in the international market. So that's about this my questions. If any doubt, if you have, means you can ask. So I'm sorry for the technical glitch at my side, because
No, ma'am.
sometimes
It's fine, ma'am.
No, it's okay, ma'am. It's fine. So we can
Thank you so much,
understand
ma'am.
the situation.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am.
I hope that I have covered some aspects of both market regulations and WTO. If any it is difficult to cover within 1 hour and all.
Yeah, we know that, ma'am. It is a little bit difficult to explain all these things in such short period of time. But you did your best, ma'am. And definitely, it will help to all participants. I know that there are too many participants not there. Maybe there are some technical reason, or maybe there are some other activity also running. Especially on the occasion of Women Day, many female participants are maybe there. So thank you all of you. Thank you all the participants also. I would like to thank everyone. Have a nice day, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. And if any doubt is there, man, you can share my mail ID also. I am happy to
Okay,
help
ma'am.
you.
Yeah, definitely, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.